Now for an interesting and uplifting story. Opera singer Janine Roebuck tells us that if you have ability, passion and determination, there's no limit to what you can achieve.
You cannot turn us. The state of your connubial views towards the person you accuse does not.
For several years, Janine Roebuck has been one of the UK's leading mezzo-soprano opera singers, and today continues to enjoy a career which has taken her talents all over the world. Yet for much of this time, she managed to keep a secret from her fellow professionals. As a teenager, Janine was diagnosed with the condition progressive nerve deafness, which has led to a gradual decline in her hearing.
It was devastating to be told that with the hearing loss that I had, I would never be able to have a professional career as a singer, because that's all I'd ever wanted to do since the age of about 2, when I was dressing up in front of Mum's mirror, you know, and singing to myself. So it was quite heartbreaking. I inherited the progressive nerve deafness from my father's side of the family, and it goes back generations, many generations. In my case, it didn't start to manifest itself till I was about 18 at university. But my mother tested me when I was very young. She dropped a heavy tray behind me and I jumped right up to the ceiling with terror, really. But she was very relieved because, oh, good, there's nothing wrong with the hearing then. But she hadn't realised that it didn't start till much later and then spiralled downwards from there on. Well, I was singing in the university opera group and the professor of audiology happened to be the director of the opera, the Magic Flute, that I was working on. And he very kindly tested me and my father. Just they were interested in the genetic history. And a couple of days later, I met him on campus, and he was wreathed in smiles, which something that always sticks in my mind as being inappropriate, and said, "Oh well, of course, with your the severity of your hearing loss, there's absolutely no way you will ever be able to have a career in music. So you're just going to have to keep it as a hobby." And I inappropriately smiled back and said, "Oh, thank you very much," and then went home and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. I instinctively and automatically developed coping strategies. I lip read predominantly all the time. If I didn't see your lips, I wouldn't know what you were saying. That develops the visual, of course, for me is very important. Watching the conductor, watching colleagues when they're breathing in, so I'm coming in with them at the same time. I've also developed, my sixth sense is very strong, my intuitive side is very strong. You know, I can walk into a room and say, you know, so-and-so was really angry, weren't they? And everybody else says, were they? I didn't notice. You know, so you need as many clues coming to you from your other senses as possible. Before I got the hearing aids, I'm thinking to myself, God, you know, I've really got to give this up now. It's getting impossible. And then I've given a better hearing aid, and that keeps me going. So hearing aids are vital. And not only the quality of the hearing aid, but also the expertise of the technician who is fitting you. The technology of hearing aids is just phenomenal, and it's just going to get better and better and better. So from that point of view, I don't really have any concerns. I already know of the next hearing aid, the power hearing aid I need to go on to next, and that's waiting there for me, so that's quite a nice, comforting feeling. I was very fortunate years ago to meet up again with a colleague, Arwell Trahan Morgan, who is my singing teacher.
Hi, how are you doing? All right.
And he's just a phenomenal person and an exceptional singing teacher. He has really been, you know, open to the problems I have, aware of the problems I have as a deaf singer, and come up with, you know, help me to find solutions to things I was doing wrong.
Okay, you ready? What are we going to do?
We might as well run through the concert, shall we?
Yeah, what do you want to do first? Okay.
I refer to him as my guide dog because without him I would be lost, really.
You're just putting a little bit of tension in your head there. Just let it go a bit more. That's it. That's a bit out because you're tensing around the neck and tensing around the ear there. When I first met Janine, I wasn't aware that she was at all deaf or progressively deaf. That wasn't in the public domain at the time, and I think she didn't need to make it in the public domain because it was all working fine, and she wasn't as deaf perhaps as she is now. What did you feel you did?
Well, I just relaxed a lot more, and by relaxing that, it released the diaphragm as well.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to go woo.
Yeah.
But just make sure that you're not holding at the end of your phrases. I've learned as much probably working with Janine as she has from me, you know. Because when I started with Janine, she was then an accomplished singer and a name in the opera world. So therefore, I wasn't going to insult her to teach her to sing. It was how I could best maximise her talent. I think Janine has a great voice. It's very warm, it's got a good range to it. I mean, she can go very high, and she has a good lower range to her sound. It carries very well in an auditorium. She's a very good performer, a very good communicator. And I think these days you have to have the whole package. Again, keep breathing, keep breathing.
Lock, don't you?
Yeah, you do, yeah. At the end of your phrases, then you're locking. Opera singers, the sound, you are inside, and you have no real idea of how the sound is projecting out into the auditorium or into the opera house. So therefore, even as a hearing person, it's all about the feel, because you don't have a concept of how that voice is traveling correctly into the auditorium. Because if you're changing acoustic all the time, and you're going from a dry acoustic like a studio or a cathedral or a concert hall or an opera stage, all those acoustics are different. So if you go by sound, you've had it. Okay, so what's it feel like?
Too tense.
Where?
Here.
In your diaphragm?
Yes.
It really is about learning to tune in. And when someone's on stage and something is going slightly awry, then they know about it. With Janine, there are specific things because of her hearing loss that she will be doing that impedes her ability, such as what I said earlier, that straining, not being able to hear, and not being able to hear. What she used to do was not being able to hear, obviously, and then trying to hear. And that in itself caused a lot of issues in her singing. She is now able, I feel, to really recognise when things start going wrong and know what to do, what to release, what to tune into, and how to get herself out of it. We all do it. It's not just Janine, you know, we all do it. Yes, all right. That's better. The truth of the matter is I don't know whether or not I can work with someone who's completely deaf that hasn't got a previous experience of singing or an identification with sound or how they use that sound. But I'm going to try and find out and see how I go.
Singing gives me immense joy. It's just, I've said this before, it's a spiritual experience for me. It's uplifting, and I love it more than anything in the world. So obviously I had to have a bash. I was prepared to fall flat on my face. Ish. Glad I didn't, totally.
And as well as pursuing her own musical career, Janine is passionate in her belief about instilling a love of music in others. She is currently involved in a project teaching music to deaf children. If this is something that might interest you, you can find more information on our website.